What's good, Mets Nation? Welcome to another edition of Straight Outta Flushing. On this week's show, we're talking about the Mets, their West Coast road trip, which was a good one, other mascots shooting their shot with Mrs. Met, and we're also going to talk about the value of Francisco Lindor, all coming up right here on Straight Outta Flushing. All right, the big roster news this week. Mark Vientos is down with a hamstring pull, and Ronny Mauricio, he's back in the bigs. First, let's look at Vientos. Now, his injury could have been a lot worse. It's a low-grade hamstring pull, projected to be out about 2 weeks with a minor league rehab stint after that. And honestly, this might be a well-timed reset for him. Vientos, he had been scuffling, losing DH at-bats and posting the second worst outs above average defensively among qualified infielders. Now, last season, he didn't really get going until June. So this window to get healthy, sharpen his defense, and get his swing down could be exactly what he needs. In the meantime, hello again to Ronnie Mauricio. The switch-hitting infielder made his 2025 debut this past week against the Dodgers, and it was an emotional moment after missing all of last season with a torn ACL. And he wasted no time in reminding the Mets how he's been a top prospect in the organization. A 456-foot bomb in Colorado, that was the farthest Mets homer this season. Smooth defensive player, too. We saw that in the field. And his first stolen base of the year. Remember his September call-up back in 2023? Mauricio, he went 7 for 7 in steal attempts. So, what can be made of this opportunity? Well, first, he's proving that he's a major league athlete again. That alone is a win for Mauricio. He also gives the Mets, secondly, a speed-power combo that this bench has lacked. And finally, even if he returns to AAA and Vientos comes back, this taste of the majors is going to only give him confidence going forward, and he could be a crucial part of this team later this summer. Look, Mauricio, he's grown as a player. He's worked on his body, he's even worked on his English, and definitely worked on his game. And long-term, Ronnie Mauricio is absolutely in the mix for this 2025 roster and beyond. Vientos, he will be back, but Mauricio is making his mark and making his case here for now. This is exactly the kind of internal competition that the Mets need if they are going to solidify themselves as one of the best teams in the National League this summer. Okay, it's a portion of the show where we discuss the Metropolitans with a guest, and this week joining the show for the first time is the host of the Subway To Shea podcast, my guy, Anthony Rivera, joins me now. Ant, what's going on, man?
It's so great to be on here with you for this show. It's very excited that you got this launched out there.
Thank you, man. Thank you. You are the first non-New York Post guest here, so glad to have you. We've done a lot of Mets talk together over the last couple of years, so now, you know, part of the show, part of this show's family. So thanks again, Anthony. We appreciate it.
Awesome.
And we got to talk about the Mets and how they've been playing, because it's been pretty good recently if you're a Mets fan. So, Anthony, the Mets, they held their own against the Dodgers. They got a split last week with Los Angeles, and they've won 4 of the 7 games this season against the Dodgers. The Mets, they're 23-15 against teams that are over 500 this season. They've got the most wins in the National League, the second most in baseball with 42. In your eyes, how much of a contender are the Mets right now?
I think they're big contenders. The fact that you just mentioned that they have a winning record against teams over 500 is huge. We saw the big series between the Mets and the Dodgers in LA and in Queens, where the Mets won 4-3, but they could have won 7-0 if minus some mental errors and some mistakes that they made, which the Dodgers capitalized on. I think they're pretty much contenders in this, and with the Phillies kind of slumping here, as well as the Braves downfall and free fall, I think the Mets are as big of a contender as anyone, as well as the Dodgers.
Yeah, it seems like they're right there. And I think at least you could say from last week, they showed they can compete with, not just last week, I should say, the entire season series. They showed that they can compete with the Dodgers. And I think that has to be the encouraging thing for Mets fans. I know some Mets fans were disappointed they didn't take 3 out of 4. They probably should have taken 3 out of 4. But look, all things well, the Mets 42 wins. They've got to be feeling good right now if you're the team or a fan. But let's talk about the pitching, Anthony, because you and I, before this season, back in spring training, we said the question mark with this team might be the pitching, right? We felt good about the hitting, but 4 out of the 5 guys in the starting rotation, they've got an ERA below 3. Edwin Diaz just won NL Reliever of the Month. Guys like Griffin Canning, they totally transformed themselves as pitchers. My question to you is Is this the best Mets rotation that you've seen in your lifetime as a fan? Or can you think of any Mets rotation of years past that might rival this one in terms of quality?
In terms of statistics, it's the best since 1985. Dwight Gooden, Ron Darling, I think it was Sid Fernandez and Ed Lynch. They have not have been this statistically good since 1985, which is fantastic. When I look at the teams, 2015 comes to mind when you had the kids coming up in Harvey and Syndergaard and DeGrom and Mats. I thought that was a good one. I always liked the 99 2000 Mets rotation. But this is a rotation that's not full of aces and stars. You have a lot of kind of more reclamation projects and guys becoming relievers and trying to be starters now, and it has seemed to work. This method, this way that David Stearns has brought these guys together has really worked. The pitching lab has worked, and we're seeing great starting pitching, not only from Griffin Canning, Clay Holmes, David Peterson, who's been pitching very well since coming back from his hip surgery last season. You throw in Tyler McGill, who has a good start here and there. And how can we not talk about Kodai Senga, who ever since he put this Mets uniform on has delivered. Outside of that postseason, which he probably should not have pitched in last year, he has been everything advertised, and he helps lead this rotation and hopefully into a deep run into October.
Yeah, hopefully. I think the one thing, though, and I think we'll talk about this more as we get deeper in the season, people are going to look at this rotation and still have questions and say, hey, is this sustainable? I understand no Frankie Montas yet, no Sean Manaea, which should be encouraging to some degree, but people might say, hey, do they still need an ace pitcher? Do they need a star? Not sure about the answer to that. Right now, these guys they're dealing. They're pitching really good, whether it's the starters or the pen, they're pitching really good. And speaking of really good, Ronny Mauricio made his debut last week, and we had talked about him earlier in this show. We saw the amazing bat speed from him on his first homer this season on Saturday. What have you made of his first week up here with the Mets? And, what do you think his potential is here with the big club?
We saw him struggle in the beginning against the Dodgers in that series, but in Colorado, Colorado is probably the best place for him to kind of relax, reset himself, and get himself acclimated to not only the roster and team that he's on now, because, it was a whole lot different in 2023, but he got 5 hits in this series, a lot of extra base hits, which is good to see from him. Talked about the bat speed, which is great. I also like to talk about his defense. I mean, he's playing second. He's playing short when Francisco Lindor was out. He also playing third base. I always thought of him as a second baseman because I like the way that him and Lindor meshed in 2023. But watching him play third base, I mean, this guy has an arm. I mean, he throws absolute bullets to first base, and it'll be interesting to see how they handle when Vientos comes back, how they handle time with Beatty. But it's a rotation right now. I call it the carousel at third base. Ronnie Mauricio is definitely a part of that.
No, absolutely is a part of it. And you got to like the defense. You're right. And then also the speed. He's got 2. He can steal some bases, or a couple of stolen bases there for him thus far. So you got to like what you've seen there. You kind of led into where I wanted to go next, Anthony, because with Mauricio in the fold, and we don't know for how long, and Vientos injured, and Vientos is supposed to be about 2 weeks, supposed to be out here. But how do you see Mendoza and this organization balancing infield duties as well as DHing? How would you like to see that play out?
Yeah, I think you just got to play the hot hand. Whoever is the hot hand at the moment is going to get the playing time. We saw Brett Beatty a couple of weeks ago. He was one of the hottest players on this team. He was the most clutch player for a 2-week span. He's kind of come back down to earth again. But he kept playing every day, even more over Vientos, where they pushed Vientos to DH. Now Mauricio comes in. Now he's getting the opportunities. Whoever is hitting, I think, is going to be the one that gets the most playing time. And if Mauricio plays well as Beatty at third base, I think it could be a little bit of going tit for tat with each other. But this is a good problem to have this depth in the organization, to have this depth on this roster, and the fact that you could plug these guys in when there's an injury and have it work out to where you don't miss a beat and the team keeps winning. I think that is very, very important.
Yeah, I agree. A little internal competition is never bad. I think it's a good problem to have. We'll see how it plays out for the Mets. And if you're a Mets fan, you got to be excited about it. It's a lot of young players fighting for playing time. We'll see how that all plays out. But you're right, Carlos Mendoza, he's gone with the hot hand. We saw that last year. he will absolutely go with the hot hand. Speaking of hot, is Juan Soto coming around? Because I know it was against the lowly Rockies, but on Sunday, Soto became the first Mets player to reach base 6 times in a game since Pete Alonso did it on August 16th of 2019. Is, in your eyes, Anthony, his approach to the plate starting to look better? Is the bat heating up right now for the Mets right fielder?
Dexter, I'm just happy to talk about Juan Soto on the field finally. We finally get to talk about his play
Yeah.
on the field, and he is heating up. In his last 7 games, he's batting .333. He's got a slugging of 500, on base percentage of 543. He's got 1 home run, 3 RBIs, but he continues to get the walks, which is very important for him. I like to see a little bit more power and a little bit more patience from him. I think he's going to be just fine. Look, we've seen it before, right? Mike Piazza came in here. He struggled. Carlos Beltran, same thing. We recently dealt with it with Francisco Lindor. This should not be a problem with Juan Soto, who's a professional. He has the resume. I think he will be fine. I think he's getting ready to heat up. And as this team keeps winning and he keeps getting himself acclimated to the clubhouse, I think that we are in for a very, very fun summer.
I'm so glad you said that because I talked about that on last week's show about Soto in particular and some of the players we've seen here in Flushing in the past struggle, and also Soto's just talent as a player. And I said, look, if you get to the end of June, July, and he was still struggling, then yes, maybe you could be concerned a bit. I'm not shocked that now's the time where he's starting to come around because he's such a good player. He's way too talented, and yeah, you knew he was going to heat up a little bit. But you know who's not heating up? That's Francisco Alvarez. He's been struggling, Anthony, at the plate. If he doesn't start performing, do you think the Luis Torrens, Alvarez platoon will lead more towards Torrens, or do you think Mendoza is going to stick with trying to get some confidence for his young catcher?
Yeah, for me, I would have went with kind of a split. I'm not dead set yet on sending Francisco Alvarez down. I know a lot of fans want to send him down and bring up Hayden Singer, but Mendy is a guy, especially with these young kids, he's going to put them out there, even when they're struggling, and trying to get them to the right spot. We saw Francisco Alvarez hit a home run in the finale against the Colorado Rockies, which is good for him. Dead center, that power that we know that he has is kind of was unleashed on Sunday, which is great to see. And he just has to keep it up. I'm always more concerned about him on defense. If he's not hitting, his defense has to be perfect. And when he lets a lot of pass balls go by, other teams tend to capitalize. It happened in the Dodgers series, and the Mets need him to tighten up the defense. The offense will eventually come. I don't know how long it's going to take, but the Mets are willing to continue to string him out there. The pitching staff loves working with him, so we're going to see him a lot. Luis Torrens, on the other hand, I feel like he should get a little bit more playing time. We saw him come up with a big clutch hit on Saturday, which is, anytime you can get a clutch hit from your backup catcher is pretty huge. So we'll see how it goes. But I think for now that Mendy is going to push Alvarez as much as possible. And maybe it'll work.
Maybe it'll work. Maybe he'll turn it around. Maybe it's due. He got the homer, as you mentioned, on Sunday in the finale against the Rockies. We'll see how that all plays out. I want to talk to you a little bit about Pete Alonso because he moved past David Wright on the Mets' all-time home run list with his 17th dinger of the year. Now, we know that Pete went through some, I'll be nice, intense contract negotiations last offseason. But when you look at this season, Anthony, has his offensive turnaround this season convinced you that he should be the Mets' first baseman going forward on a long-term contract? Where are you on Pete Alonso, or do you need to see more?
No, I'm going to stick with the opinion that I had in, I think it was the end of 2023 when Soto was still in San Diego and the talk of him getting free agency was coming up. Who did you want, Soto or Pete Alonso? And I stuck with Pete Alonso, and I know a lot of fans are like, why? Soto is so good. But Pete Alonso, he was made to play in New York. He loves playing here, number one, and he has shown that can handle not only New York, which is an animal in itself, but the Mets, right? Like it's a different animal playing for the Yankees and then playing for the Mets. He's handled everything the best way that you can. I feel like last season he was pressing a lot. You have Scott Boras in your ear, and you're trying to make good to get this big contract, which didn't work out. Comes back to the Mets, and he's doing now what he should have done last year, and he's comfortable. He's leading the team in RBIs. He's going to break this record at some point this season that Dow Strawberry has. I have full confidence in Pete Alonso to have this, what is this, MVP type season that he's having. And I think that the Mets should consider re-signing him, because look at the way this offense is with runners in scoring position struggling. You have Lindor at the top, you have Soto. If you take Pete Alonso away from this lineup this year, I don't know if the Mets are the second best team in all of baseball and the best team in the National League. He has carried this offense, even with a little bit of a slump he had a couple of weeks ago. He has carried this offense, and I think he's batting over 300 with runners in scoring position. He's got to stay a Met, and I think he's got to retire a Met. Do whatever it takes. He's earned it. He's done everything that you've asked for, and then some. And he's even come up big and clutch in the postseason.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. He's going to probably go back into contract negotiations, hopefully not as intense for the Mets and their fans this coming offseason. And before we wrap here, let's look ahead at this week. The Mets, they return home. Pretty good road trip, 5-2. I think a lot of people would have signed for that. They will host the Nationals and then the Rays before they head out on the road to play the Braves down in the ATL. What are you keeping your eye on with the team this week?
Is it too easy to just say keep winning? Because
yeah, I mean, that's what you should want. I mean, you should want to
yeah.
say that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I like to go back to 2022, where when you face teams like this that are struggling in the Nationals, who aren't as bad as it seems, they're an up-and-coming team right now, and I think they're in third place ahead of the Atlanta Braves. But when you play teams that are below you, the Nationals, the Rays, you look at a lot of other teams, the Mets struggled against those teams in 2022, and it allowed the Braves and the Phillies to come back and be bigger contributors when it came to the postseason. The Mets got to take advantage of the struggling Phillies, who I think have lost like 9 out of 10 now, and the Braves, who are kind of in this free fall, blowing games in ninth innings. They're just having, I think they're now 14 games back of the New York Mets. You have to continue to push and continue to stay focused, and that's something that Carlos Mendoza has been able to do with this team, keep them focused, even taking hard losses and putting them behind the wayside. Look at those losses that the Mets had to the Dodgers. They were heartbreaking. They were absolutely heartbreaking out in LA. What did the Mets do? They came back and then they swept the Colorado Rockies. And that's something that could be stamped onto Carlos Mendoza's resume, that he is able to get these Mets focused on a day in, day out basis and turn things around. And that's why this team right now sits at the top of the National League as the best team in that league.
Yeah, vibes are good in Flushing right now. 42 wins for the Mets. As I said, most wins in the National League right now. But you want to see that winning continue this week against some lesser competition. That is Anthony Rivera. Check him out, Subway To Shea podcast. One of the best podcasts out there covering the New York Mets. Anthony, welcome to Straight Outta Flushing for the first time. Glad we were able to have you here. We're going to have you back soon.
I can't wait, Dexter. Thank you so much.
Anytime. All right, people. Time to head back online, see what Mets fans have been talking about this week. And I'm going to start right here with a mascot who was out here trying to make things messy. Not good at all from what we saw here. And that's right. It's Rockies mascot, Dinger. He tried to shoot a shot with Mrs. Met this week at Coors Field, had the sign in hand, trying to let it be known. But Dinger, he's not alone with people trying to get at Mrs. Met. Mascots and non-mascots have done this. Does anyone remember Big Papi when he shot his shot on national TV?
Mrs. Met thought there was some chemistry there. Mr. Met not a big fan.
My girl's here.
Not of that.
Come over here, honey.
And apparently we have. Oh, Mrs. Met is here. Hi, how you doing? Oh,
nice.
Well, there you go.
See? Hey, where you came from, man? See, Kevin, when you win, everything is shareable.
Everything's shareable.
I just make that up.
Is this a love triangle? What's going on
What's
here?
going on, girl?
Hey, Mr. Met. I think this is a show for another network.
What is happening here?
We have jumped the shark.
Oh, my God.
Completely.
Here we go,
Oh,
here we
great. Papa, you're replaced.
Oh, I love it.
Mr. Met normally doesn't have a lot to say, but we have. Yeah, I think that's the end.
The wheels are coming off.
What would give you that impression? There you go. There's some drama unfolding here. I guess maybe that follows us to L.A.
I guess.
Who knows? But the Mets are happy. Their fans are happy.
So David Ortiz there, he went full steal your girl mode. And at this point, I think we might want to consider getting a security detail for Mrs. Met because these guys are doing a little bit too much. Now, unfortunately for Dinger, Mrs. Met seemed unbothered by this. But the internet, well, the internet as we know, they are undefeated. And they had a field day with this. MLB Reddit, the comments were wild. Let's check some of them out. First one here, like she's going to call a guy who has 10 wins all year and still lives in his parents' basement. Yeah, Rockies are in the basement, Dinger. Not a good look for you. How about this next one? We've got saying that Dinger shot his shot, then he danced the sad away. Legend. Yeah, Dinger, we appreciate the effort, the sign, and everything. It was legendary. And then the final comment we had here that we thought was pretty good talks about expansion. Now, the Rockies, they were an expansion team. This one says, and that, son, is how expansion teams are made. Dinger trying to expand some more, shooting a shot. Now, look, you got to admire the effort here from Dinger, along with these other guys who've tried to step up to Mrs. Met. But the thing about all of them, they struck out, and they did not get a win. Moving along and what's been going on in social media, Juan Soto had a nice gift for Starling Marte. It was a really good moment. We go from mascots being messy to something a little bit more wholesome here. Juan Soto gifted Marte a custom poga this week. And how he rose, he had to have poga explained to him on social media. Now, if you don't know, poga is a portable gaming console setup, and look, I think they're pretty dope. And apparently, Soto, he's got himself some good taste. Got a custom Mets color for Marte. Now, I look at that and I say, that's some team chemistry right there. Now, me personally, I'd like to have a custom poga right now. Could be good for my next vacation or next long flight. So, poga, you can, hook a brother up. We would like that too. Moving from video games to a little reality around the Mets. And this is last but not least, but we got some good old nostalgia coming back to Queens. The Mets just announced that they'll be hosting a 3-inning alumni game on September 13th. That'll feature players from the Shea Stadium and Citi Field eras. And Mets fans, young and old, they should enjoy this game very much. Expect to see some old favorites, some surprises, and probably a few guys testing those hamstrings just trying to get around the base. We hope everybody stays healthy and enjoys that game. That does it for Mets Mention. Here we go. Time for the final out. And this week, it's time to say what a lot of Mets fans and players have already been thinking. Francisco Lindor, we're going to talk about him. He should definitely be the team's next captain. Look, we saw it this past week. Pinch hit with a broken toe, game-winning double. Then in his first start back, he goes 3 for 5, steals 2 bases, and the man is just out here leading by example, on 1 foot, if he has to. Look, when he plays, the Mets simply just win games. Check this out. Since 2021, the Mets' record when Lindor plays is a .546 win percentage. When he doesn't, it's .423. And then when he goes deep, the Mets, they just win, period. They've won 27 straight games when he's homered. You've got to go back almost a year to find the last time that he went yard, and the Mets didn't come out on top. But it's more than just the bat, folks. It's how he's embraced being the face of the franchise in the biggest baseball market on the planet. It's how he's become a rock for this team in the clubhouse through all kinds of situations. He's done it through slumps, injuries, streaks, whatever you throw at him. And then you've got to look at the numbers because they're stacking up pretty fast. The most home runs by a Mets shortstop ever, 26 career leadoff bombs. That is 8th among active players, 124 homers as a Met. And when he homers, the Mets, they win 75% of the time. And his name is moving up the record books fast. Those 124 career homers as a Met, that is tied for 10th all-time in franchise history. His 262 career homers as a shortstop, 4th all-time among MLB shortstops. He's chasing baseball legends now. And it's been 7 years since David Wright served as captain in Queens. And if you ask me, the time has come for Francisco Lindor to be this team's leader. He's playing like it, and he's also acting like it, and he's been doing this. So now, if you ask me, it is time to put in the books and make Francisco Lindor the captain. That does it for this episode. Special thanks to my guest, Anthony Rivera of the Subway To Shea podcast, my producer, Erica Block, associate producer, Nick Federico, editor, Corey Porter, and production assistant, Tommy Cohen. I'm Dexter Henry. We'll catch you next time, straight out of Flushing.